Well, we've talked about what's been going on in the parliamentary Conservative Party when it comes to the Conservative Civil War. And at the moment, you've had Suella Braverman versus Robert Jerrick. You've had the leaks of the first shadow cabinet meeting, and of course, Kimmy Badenoch not only laying straight into Rishi Sunak, but also Suella Braverman. And of course, following on from that, you had Braverman versus Badenoch. And that, that Braverman versus Badenoch was just round one of what I think is going to be a very, very brutal Conservative Party civil war. Even Robert Jerrick recently wrote a piece for Conservative Home, and honestly, it's so boring. I couldn't bring myself or find a way to make it even funny. It was really difficult watching the video back, and I'm like, this is just a boring video. But honestly, his entire thing was, we need to really reach out to our base and appeal to our base, when he's saying that this base is like 70 plus, but in 5 years' time, that base of like 70 plus could be like, let's say they're 70, they're going to be like 75 in 5 years' time. Are they really going to be fit and able to go out and do the kind of groundwork that needs to be done during a political campaign? And the comments down below were all calling, Robert Jerrick has the nickname of Bob Boring and generic Jerrick. And oh boy, he's certainly lived up to it there. Whether he will be able to actually infuse anyone behind him is anyone's guess. But make no mistake, there are some very clear names now emerging in this should we say, future battle for the leadership of the party. Certainly, of course, as we said, Kimmy Badenoch, Suella Braverman, certainly Robert Jerrick, but also James Cleverly's name now starting to emerge as well as someone who could be a uniter. Yeah. Always remember, Theresa May was meant to be the great uniter of the party. Look what happened to her. Liz Truss, meant to be a great uniter of the party. Look what happened to her. Rishi Sunak, meant to be a great uniter of the party. Look what happened to him. And one of the interesting things that we've talked about, maybe we need to talk, and this is what I wanted to do this, because I think this is an interesting sort of example of this. We are going to probably talk about a lot in the fights to come, the fights between what's going on in the parliamentary party and the non-parliamentary party. But what about outside influences? Because outside influences like journalists and commentators who are, firmly in the Conservative camp, who have been talking about the Conservative Party for years, decades, have all these connections, all now seemingly really realizing that there's this massive civil war about to take place. And here I've been sitting for years saying exactly that. And I'm like, have you finally realized, guys, that, these internal party divisions that you've had for years and just haven't really tackled have now become some really serious problems. So we're going to have a look at Katie Bowles, who is the chief political editor over at the Spectator. And we're going to have what she said about what is going to be this fight for the future of the soul of the Conservative Party. Because it's very interesting, some of the things that she talks about, the people that she speaks to, about what could happen in this fight. So we'll see what she's got to say about this. But as always, before we do continue on into this, please do remember to click on the like, share, and subscribe button. Down below, there's a link to Patreon page, the Buy Me Coffee link where you can buy me coffee, the YouTube thank you button, and of course, as always, there is the Pony Club down below as well. So let's crack on then into this. So Kate Bowles, writing in The Guardian, with the title of "A Fight for the Soul of the Tory Party is Inevitable. Rishi Sunak staying on may make it worse." Oof. Hmm. Bear in mind, I'm actually quite surprised, even though we have a new chairman of the 1922 committee. Um, Again, at the time of doing this video, still so far, no timetable of what's going to happen in the race, the rules of what this race are going to be. We don't know yet. So let's find out more about this. So, when Tory MPs now gathered on the Wednesday night to hear Rishi Sunak's address them for the very first time since their worst election defeat, they were told to be on their best behavior. um, Kimmy Badenoch certainly wasn't. If that's true, Kimmy Badenoch certainly wasn't. The new chairman of the 1922 committee, Bob Blackman, made it very clear to colleagues that they ought to behave respectively, that the last thing they needed was more bickering. Does, does he not realize what's going on with his own party? Does he not realize that the mess his party is in? He said, the suggestion was that if you are angry, this wasn't the right place to show it, explained an attender. However, in a Q&A session that followed Sunak's speech apologizing for the losses, loyalty was then a buzzword, particularly in reference to Suella Braverman, the former Home Secretary, as she had been out and about recently criticizing Sunak and the Pride flag and had not ruled out defecting to Reform. Oh, first of all, I think if she defects, she would only defect, I think, if she loses. Like, if she loses and she doesn't like the way that the leadership is going, she will cross over and she will defect to Reform. I think that is absolute probability that is going to happen. I wouldn't even put money on it because quite frankly, it's a fool's bet. It really is a fool's bet. But Suella Braverman has been out blaming Rishi Sunak even the day before the election. She came out saying, "Oh yeah, we've lost this general election because of Rishi Sunak." You know, but to say loyalty has been a thing, no one has been loyal to Sunak for quite some time. His honeymoon period he had lasted about 2 or 3 weeks, and then loyalty went out the window for Rishi Sunak. No one was loyal to him. And they've got even less reason to be loyal to Rishi Sunak now. If you think Sunak was a bad leader now, he's going to be absolutely even worse. I'm shocked they are not getting rid of him as fast as they possibly can. But back to this. But whilst most Tory MPs were playing nice for the time being, again, interesting admission that, oh yeah, we're just playing nice, because I think they are as well. I am very surprised there have not been more articles coming out from some very angry Tory MPs, or even ex-angry Tory MPs at losing their seat. I am very, very surprised that there hasn't been a lot more of those. Maybe they've been told, keep your powder dry for now. But like I say, they all know a civil war's coming, so maybe they are keeping their powder dry for now. The Badenoch, Bravernoch, Bradnock Bravernoch, the Badenoch Braverman fight that happened was very, very brief. I will not be surprised if it does end up escalating, but that is a fight which will very, very much almost come to be the cornerstone of who is the right wing candidate, and will they end up knocking each other out, or will Braverman get the better of Badenoch, or vice versa? Who knows? We'll find out in an upcoming leadership contest. So MPs are playing nice for the time being. The question is, how long will this uneasy truce last? This week, comments made by Kimmy Badenoch at the Shadow Cabinet meeting criticizing Sunak over parts of the election campaign were quickly leaked to the press. The party cannot even agree on the timings of a leadership contest. This does not bode well either. Yeah, nothing bodes well. Nothing bodes well in this at all. So the elephant in the room is how long Sunak will be willing to stick around. I am surprised he has not jetted off to America, jetted off to California. I am really surprised he's even stuck around this long. I thought he would get while the getting's good, but I am surprised he has stuck around for this long. So Rishi Sunak once again defying my expectations of doing the right thing. But there you go. um, the former Prime Minister has suggested that he will stay in place, but MPs do suspect that this is an offer with limits. He is not going to want to be leader of the opposition for months on end, one MP told me. Yep. I desperately think they know there's going to be a war, and I think they are wanting to try and find some sort of truce. Maybe in this is time, maybe maybe to go so soon into a leadership contest. I think the feeling in the Tory party, or at least from what you get from that comment, is it's too soon. Too soon. We don't want to have a leadership contest, shall we say, so soon after such a catastrophic defeat. We want time for the feelings to die down. But make no mistake, those feelings. It's not the feeling of loss. It's an entire reason of what's been going on with the Conservative Party for the last couple of years, going all the way back to you know getting rid of Margaret Thatcher in some cases, of questions, ideals, ideology that they have just not dealt with. It is going to be brutal, this upcoming leadership contest. They know it. And to be honest, having it sooner rather than later may be a good thing for them. But hey, if you want to have it later, then I suppose I've got more content in for the next couple of months, because as was said there is a very uneasy truce, and trust me, they're going to end up breaking these truces time and time again. So plenty of Tory grandees, he continues, have already chimed in with talk about the need to, quote, take our time, rather than rush into a very messy contest where the wounds are still raw. The, quote, go long crowd are now drawing inspiration from the 2005 Conservative leadership contest, when Michael Howard announced his intention to go, but stuck around for several months to allow the party to regroup. That year's party conference was seen as the starting gun on the contest. With every contender getting a 20-minute speech, David Cameron emerged as the frontrunner. If they are going to do that, and they're going to sort of go long, the fact that you've already got things breaking out, that you've got all this stuff out, I don't think they're going to be able to last. I don't think they're going to be able to go the distance. I don't think they'll be able to last that long. You've already got people sort of trying to position themselves, as we've already mentioned just earlier at the start of this video, trying to position themselves for for the run. They are getting ready, and they know who to attack. That's why Braverman and Badenoch are going after each other, and why Braverman also went after Robert Jerrick. That's going to be impossible to stop, because they know that they need to get ahead. They know that they want to get a head start. So, going long might prove to be a very bad decision. However, she continues, few in the party believe that a young Cameron-esque candidate will emerge to shake up the contest this time around. Oh, that certainly ain't going to happen. There's going to be plenty shaking this contest, but it's not going to be in the Cameron style. Sadly, we are not in a David Cameron moment when someone electrifies the race. So, well, there might be a lot of electrifying moments in the race, but not the type they're talking about. So, there isn't much point waiting, says a colleague. We know who the candidates are. We should get on with it. A lot of people who use the phrase go along without any specific timing is just an emotive reaction. And of course, the go now crowd argues that a sweep of political events requires a response, and that should come from a new leader. Otherwise, such as Nigel Farage, will now take up the space. That's a fair point as well. This group tends to be a lot more positive about the election result, seeing Starmer's huge majority won on a comparatively small vote share as evidence that his government could be less stable than it seems. Uniting behind a leader quickly could pay off should the Prime Minister slip up. But until the rules have been confirmed, don't expect any candidates to declare. What a lot of the frontrunners have realized is that the party is very hurting and not that receptive to maneuvers, said a Tory old timer. There's also a strategic point. If the contest is very long, candidates will want to bide their time rather than lose focus by going all out in the first few weeks. As I said earlier, a lot of people keeping their powder dry. That's why that Braverman Badnock's, first round didn't seem to escalate too much. We'll see what happens, and we'll be keeping an eye on them. Don't worry, but it was just round one, and it was just a brief kerfuffle, shall we say? Not a true skirmish. It was just a brief kerfuffle, and it seems to be over. But we'll see what happens. Yet, of course, unofficial leadership teams are forming. Surprise, surprise. Ready to move when the time comes. Pictures are being drawn up. What nearly everyone in the party can agree on is that they need to reunite the right and then find a pitch to the country. We need to win back voters from reform, then appeal to voters in the centre, said one senior Tory. Whichever candidate is best placed to do that will win. Good luck. Good luck, because that's what Rishi Sunak and what a number of Conservatives have tried to do in the past. Of we're going to win back the reform, UKIP, Brexit, etc. vote, and then we'll shift to the centre. Except when they shift to the centre, what do? They lose all that vote that they went after. They are in a balancing act that they cannot keep both. And immigration was a prime example, because you had all these Tories saying, we need to leave the European Court of Human Rights. We need to do this crazy Rwanda scheme that wasn't going to work. They knew it, but, they went for it because they were seen as, being, on the right of the party. Meanwhile, the middle and the centre were horrified at what they were doing, at doing this Rwanda scheme that they knew that wasn't going to work, that they knew that they were pursuing wasn't going to work, that they knew it was going to be a costly, wasteful endeavour. But they were horrified by, leaving the European Court of Human Rights because, that side of the party is very, very still much, we believe in international law and rule of law. We should not be breaking that. Leaving that would be a terrible idea. The Conservative Party is screwed, but they are still tied to that same old idea. Still tied to that same old idea that lost them this time. It is just going to be as bad as it ever was. So back to this. So whenever any one candidate can actually do both remains to be seen. Among the One Nation wing, Victoria Atkins or even Tom Tugendhat are seen as the most likely contenders. But with the party wanting to move right, there are concerns that this is not their time. Inevitably, some candidates will stand just to ensure a big shadow job when they get knocked out, which is quite true. I'd be very surprised. I'd be very surprised if Atkins or Tugendhat stood. Maybe Atkins might stand. Maybe you might see that, like Tom Tugendhat did, to sort of really get his name out there more. That could be something maybe Atkins tries to, get her pitch and know that she's going to lose, but she does it as more of an attention grabber. That could be possible. Maybe both of these names will throw their hat in the ring, knowing that this isn't yet their time, that they're going to lose. But maybe they will actually say, attack these figures on the right. Maybe we'll attack Braverman generic, and Braverman. It's entirely possible. It's entirely possible this is what could happen. And then, of course, when it is their time, they'll go, see, we were right. Who knows? Who knows what will happen? Like I say, the Tory leadership contest is going to be an absolute beautiful mess. And I'm going to love every second of it. I'm going to be very upset when it ends. But there you go. Braverman and, of course, Robert Jarrett will probably focus on ways to win back voters lost to reform. But that could then isolate those MPs worried about winning back Tory voters who have then gone to the Liberal Democrats. Notably, Generic is again, I can't stop doing it now. Jarrett is now seen as the likely candidate of the right. Suella has now blown herself up with these attacks. The mood at the moment is to try to be loyal and unifying, and she has done the opposite, has said a colleague. It would be good for us if she defected to reform and became Farage's problem. Wow. As I said earlier, betting on whether Suella will defect is a fool's bet. Is a fool's bet because even her own party right there is saying she's probably going to reform. Fun times, but I will warn this now against the Conservatives. Be careful what you wish for, because what if there are more defections to reform? Because there are going to be a lot of people on the right very, very upset, and they might, shall we say, also suddenly become Farage's problem, which might be an even bigger challenge for you. But yeah, there you go. We'll see what happens in the future. So this is why, for now at least, the contest is viewed as bad knocks to lose, on the grounds that she sits on the right but has supporters in the centre. A member of the 2017 intake, she's also seen as a bit fresher than some of her other colleagues. As one MP puts it, the former Home Secretary, Priti Patel, could be a strong contender, but she might be too much of a face from the past. We'll see. Priti Patel, I think maybe she will put her name in the hat as well, but we'll see. So those pushing to, quote, go along with the contest do tend to be those worried that this is a decision that could see a candidate on the right triumph. But the truth is, whether the Tories have the contest now or in a year, the same debates are going to need to take place. And it's not just, as again, some of the problems that have been brought up here. The European question will need to be brought up again. Brexit, the problems they had when they were in power. How do they conduct themselves? What if more scandals break out in the Tory party? We're already seeing, of course, at the moment, Labour have got in and they've come out and said, what are you doing? Just all this stuff going on in prisons at the moment, what we're seeing, how on earth did you allow this to continue? Like, what did you do? Starmer's just said today, and I don't know whether this will have come out by the time I've done this video, but he said, when we publish the details of what went on, you are going to have to ask questions of the last administration, because when you've got someone like that saying that, I'm expecting some pretty big shocks coming out, and then maybe this ends up torpedoing, James Cleverly's election run. You were in charge of that. Why didn't you solve any of those problems? There's a lot of stuff I think potentially could torpedo a lot of these people. I don't think they even realize it yet, but I'm fully expecting more of the ministers, once they get into their, like, the Home Office, once they get their more feet under the table, they're going to come out and say, oh yeah, by the way, we found out this was going on, and oh yeah, this was going on. Meanwhile, the last administration has to answer for it. The Conservative leadership contest is going to be a beautiful mess. Really, really is. I can't wait for it. But whether it's now or later, it's going to still be an absolute beautiful mess. Anyway, but back to this. Let's finish this off. Time can obviously put off a clash, but it cannot stop the inevitable fight the party has to have. The risk of going long is that no one changes their position But the infighting drags on, and the party looks to voters to be more focused on navel gazing than actual providing opposition. And that is someone's view who, again, spectator editor, writer for, um, the Conservatives for many years. The party is going to go into a fight. It's going to go into navel gazing. We've seen all the articles that we've had recently of the what went wrong. No one's agreeing on what went wrong, except, oh, we need to take on Farage. We need to get back those reform voters because they've realized that if the right vote is split, we can't win. You know, something we on the left have been saying to everyone else on the left for quite some time. If the left vote is split, the right wins. But now they're having to face that exact same problem, and Farage isn't going to go away. Certainly not anytime soon. Even if his party, implodes in Parliament over the next, couple of years, or scandal, whatever. He's not going to go away. Reform's not going to go away. Not for a long, not by a long shot. So what are you going to do? Either A, you go reform and those voters are just such a lost cause, we're not going to go after them, but we're going to offer a more, centrist right opposition because there's more votes in the center and maybe that wins voters back. There's a question I think that hasn't yet been asked, which I think is very worth asking. Look, turnout was about 60% for this election. It was down 7%. And I asked this in a serious question because we don't really know the full results yet. But I asked this very seriously. What if the voter turnout was so low because Conservatives didn't come out to vote? Like, I'm serious about that. What if the voter turnout was so low because Conservatives didn't come out to vote? Because remember, the last couple of local elections we have been seeing, the Conservatives were panicking about a missing 10% of their vote at local elections. There was this missing 10%. Where's it gone? It's not gone to Reform. It's not gone to another party. Where's it gone? This is why they brought in Lee Anderson to be the deputy party chairman, because Lee Anderson said, don't worry, I can get these people out to vote. Was the vote so low, the voter turnout so low that it wasn't, the left-wing disaffected voters not turning out to vote? Was it the right disaffected voters not turning out to vote? Who knows? But time could very well easily answer that question. So we'll see. We'll see indeed. But hey, as always, let me know what you think down below. As I've said multiple times before, I think you're going to see conservative commentators have to take a side. Even Conservative Home, and we said about Henry Hill when we did his what went wrong just a few almost a week ago now. He was like fence sitting incredibly hard, and I'm like, sorry, my dude, but you're gonna have to pick a side. Even Kate Bowles here, or Katie Bowles, she's gonna have to pick a side as well at some point in this inevitable civil war. They will have to, and this is why almost now becomes a third dimension. You've not just got the parliamentary party, the non-parliamentary party, but you've got this other third angle, which could also maybe filter in to so we say join in this fight. You've got Ian Dale recently on LBC saying he will do everything he possibly can to make sure someone like Suella doesn't win. Well, what does he think to Kimmy Badenoch? Does he do the same to Kimmy Badenoch? He has a very large platform on LBC. Might he then use that to try and rally conservative voters? I don't know. It seems like he could. Seems like he could indeed. But anyway, we've been going very long on this video, and I am very, very conscious that I've done a lot of long videos recently. But let me know what you think about this, because this is kind of interesting on this. But as always, let me know what you think, and of course, as always, we'll see you all next time.